right, welcome in to the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Blake Lovell, and back here for another exciting edition of the podcast and another exciting edition of thoughts on New Japan Pro Wrestling. As last week, we talked with Ian Hamilton about what we could see at Wrestle Kingdom 15, and Ian back on here with us to discuss everything that happened and the fallout that took place at New Year's Dash on Wednesday. So we'll talk a bit about it. Ian, hope you've gotten a chance to get some sleep because lots of wrestling in New Japan the past several days.
Luckily, the time zones are very kind in the UK. A lot of folks in America are getting the same kind of treatment we got. Tend to get forward with pay-per-views. You'll stay into the wee hours of the morning. Generally, the New Japan shows, I think night one was like a 7 a.m. start. Night two was an 8 a.m. So not too bad. And no Japanese promotions do start a lot early, but New Japan are a lot more friendly for us Europeans.
Yes, for sure. I know for me, the 2 Eastern, 1 Eastern starts in the AMs, those can be challenging, but we make it work because it is a very exciting time for New Japan, but as we'll talk about a little bit later, also some uncertainty surrounding where things go from here. But let's start. We'll run through just, the bulk of the cards, both on night one and night two, and obviously we'll spend more time on the matches that had a little bit more significance. All the way back to night one, it started with the New Japan Rambo, and we talked about it all, not knowing the participants. It turns out that, Ishii and Suzuki, they were in there, but didn't exactly spend a lot of time in there. Came down to the final four, which was Chase Owens, Bad Luck Fale, Bushi, and Toriano, who wound up never getting into the ring, actually. I think for most people, Ian, this was probably the most forgettable thing, aside from maybe the four-way that we'll talk about on night two, but not a whole lot here probably to take away from it, except for maybe Toa Henare had some nice little moments there, eliminating Suzuki and Nagata, so.
Yeah, I think this went, I timed it 34 minutes, 32 seconds. It was long. I mean, had these Rambos before, in years past they've had, big names come back, outsiders win, what have you. No outsiders at all this time. I think last week we said it was 21-man Rambo. We didn't know anything which wasn't already out there. Apparently this was meant to be 22 entrants. I think surmised Carl Fredericks was going to be in this. He, of course, wasn't. Apparently the injury that kept him out of the Super J Cup kept him out of this. It was what it was, and I think in the report I wrote, it was very front-loaded. Chase Owens number one, but Tomohiro Ishii, Minoru Suzuki, Yuji Nagata, 2, 3, and 4, and then after that it just kind of petered out. And it went to the finish. I think 3 of the last 4 were young lions: Gabe Kidd, Yomura, and Tsuji were 3 of the last 4. Of course, Yano, last one out, but didn't actually hit the ring. I don't know what to say. I gave it 2 stars. I think some people think that's maybe a bit generous, for a half-hour match, which, I'll be honest, if I wasn't reviewing this, I would not have gotten up early for the Rambo. For all due respect, just the names were in there. Again, we didn't know who was out, so it wasn't a case of, get up early and you'll see, X in there. The fact was just, 21 names. It was basically the guys who weren't getting on the show.
I think that this was, and I don't know if it's a big surprise, but I think this was obviously the most forgettable thing on either show, whether it's just from this, like you said, this thing went a while, and the fact that the follow-up wasn't exactly anything special on night 2, so maybe not a huge surprise, and I'm with you on that. If probably didn't have to watch the whole thing, I think a lot of people could have skipped this, and really there's not much to go back and watch from that. Hiromu Takahashi versus El Phantasmo, of course. I thought this was, a match we talked about going in. Wasn't exactly sure what the expectations were, just because it did feel predictable in the fact of Hiromu winning, and of course he did win this match. You had Phantasmo, I think he came out after and said that he had his, paying homage to Edge with his gear and all this other stuff, but I didn't think this was a bad match at all. I thought it was certainly, we know what the focus is, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later with Hiromu now. We know they love Hiromu, we know he's getting these spots, but I actually thought this was a nice little match here from these two, with Hiromu getting the counter for the win and really playing up his hand injury as he headed into night 2.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that came through this, El Phantasmo, I think he's only had 4 or 5 matches since the shutdown. He had one match in Canada, which is apart from New Japan and Canada, so they don't count that. But he's had one match in Calgary, I believe, and obviously the Super J Cup stuff. So I'm not saying it's ring rust, but anyone who's really going to town on Phantasmo's lost it. He shouldn't have been in this match. There's a guy who's had 4 matches in a year, and let's be honest, you're probably looking at total 30, 40 minutes of in ring.
Right.
Whereas for all, he's been pretty much every single show apart from the he was in the Tag League World Super Junior tournament, but he's been on pretty much every show since the comeback. So you've got a guy who's been working regularly and a guy who hasn't. I thought Phantasmo looked pretty solid in this. Staying with the heel couch, doing all the gas pedal, the dick punches, what have you. That back sent on as Hiromu was on the top rope. I think I've seen that before somewhere, but I absolutely could not tell you. The fact that they busted that out in the Tokyo Dome tells you they think it's something pretty special, and it was. We have one thing which is seemingly playing into a longer storyline with Phantasmo, the loaded boot, and I tweeted this during Dash today. It is a corny as hell gimmick. It's out of Iron Sheik in the 80s, but my God, I love it. It fits the guy's couch. Okay, he's tapping his heel to the super kick, which everyone does. So the fact that someone's actually playing up that, what next? A loaded five, all the thigh slapping?
Right. No, I'm with you on that. I thought this was, just watching it. We talked about it. I wasn't sure exactly if the whole predictability factor would, maybe hurt the overall match, but I don't think it did. I think it was one, even knowing that Hiromu was going to win, it still made for a good bout, and we know what we're getting with Hiromu now. Anytime he's in the ring, we know we're probably going to get something pretty good. So, nice match there, and that led us into the match for the IWGP Tag Team titles with the Gorillas of Destiny, now the 7-time champs, getting the win over Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. I thought this match was better than I expected. I will say that. I can't say this was a classic by any means, but going in, we talked about sort of the heel versus heel dynamic and didn't really know how this would play off, but you could see, it was pretty much Taichi and Zack playing up the face role here, and I've liked the way they've worked together as a team. I thought this was a pretty good back and forth match. You had sort of the callback to the finish of the World Tag League with the glove playing into things. This was better than I expected. Again, I'm not saying this was a classic, but I will say that this one sort of surprised me a bit, and that I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think last week I completely screwed up the match I was thinking of. I was thinking of the LIJ Evil Scenario against Killer Elite Squad match when I was comparing this one last week. I was expecting something more akin to that match. Like I say, I don't think this was a horrible one. It wasn't what I was going and expecting. Again, when you think, the tag titles are pretty much guaranteed to change hands for Tokyo Dome. So, Gorillas Destiny, they win for the record 7th time. It's 19 minutes, 18 seconds to win. It was fine. I went 3.5 stars. Again, we have 12, 18 matches in 3 days. A lot of it will wash over. Unfortunately, misstayed. The fact they seem to be going back to a rematch for this kind of underlines one of the things we called out before, that the depth in New Japan in general, but the tag team division just simply ain't there.
Yeah.
I was expecting maybe Juice and Dave Finlay. For rematch, since that was the rematch for World Tag League Finals. Finley's apparently back in America since he wasn't in Rambo. Juice, we have no idea what's going on with his eye injury. So, yeah, it looks like for the time being, it's still going to be Bullet Club Suzuki going for this, and as we'll touch on later, the junior tag titles. But, yeah, it's perfectly fine. I don't know much more to say, but to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was, again, not one of those matches that you're always just going to go back and say I have to see it, but I also think it's one that was not, again, probably, I think exceeded my personal expectations just based on what I thought going into it. But Kenta defended the IWGP US title contract against Satoshi Kojima. Of course, the big talk for this one Ian, was before the match where you had Jon Moxley appear for the first time in a long while and basically cut a promo saying that he was ready for whoever's next. And, of course, that's going to be Kenta. And you had Moxley in the New Japan USA ring, so that led to a lot of speculation about, have they already done this? Have they already recorded this? What are some of the things maybe that have gone into this? Do we already have a new champion and we just don't know it yet? As for this particular match, I thought it was one, again, sort of the same thing we talked about with Hiromu. We knew that Kenta was going to win this match, but, having someone like Kojima who has proven that he can still, work at a pretty solid level, knowing going in that this was going to kind of want to be one of those, last throw type things where this is maybe his last big moment in the Tokyo Dome and getting this shot. I thought this was fine. Again, nothing overly special, I didn't think, but still, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it depends again, matches in general, if you have any kind of engagement with performers, you get a lot more out of it. I'm a pretty big fan of Kenta, big fan of Kojima. So again, with this, I was probably a bit more invested in this, but yeah, this to me was Kojima's last hurrah. I mean, he, as far as we know, he's never going to get that final G1 run. It was a few years back he gave away a spot to Tenzan, and he never got to have his farewell in the G1 climax. I honestly don't expect Kojima to be in a singles match for Tokyo Dome again. I think this, if Juice hadn't been injured, he would have been a dead cert for the Rambo. I'll be honest, I think going forward, it'll be either Rambles or never six-man gauntlets going forward for Kojima. This was perfectly fine. I mean, as much as I knew Kent was probably going to win, I mean, we'll touch on this later, but as far as Kent and Kojima, we knew there was only one result. It was Kent. It was like Kojima rolling back the clock one more time. I mean, we've seen all of World Tag League. He was racking up win after win after win. He still got it for whatever reason. New Japan don't want to let him, cut loose, for one better word. But yeah, I thought it was a really good mid-card match. And this is Kojima's final match in the Tokyo Dome, at least of any kind of profile. He gave his best shot. And going to the Moxley thing. So I can't believe it did this last night, but I had a look at the timelines of when they could have done this, because I think they said in June they taped a buttload of stuff for New Japan Strong. That's finished up. There's a new series of Strong starting this weekend, which would expect that stuff's going to be part of. So I'm fully expecting that match has already taken place. That new series, I say, starts on Friday night. I think it's 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern. I watch on demand, so that's why I don't know the start time. But was that spell between the end of the G1? So Kent has been in Japan since the G1, so he'd have had to have been in since late August, early September, would say, with the quarantine time. After Power Struggle in November, he was off the World Tag League card and came back for the Road to Tokyo Dome stuff in December. So you're looking at that period between November and December where something could have been taped with this along with Strong. I'll be honest, given results would happen later on, I fully expect this title to have been won by Kenta, maybe coming back to Japan, to be a secondary title or a lot higher than it was, or maybe just staying on Strong. But I guess we'll see when New Japan Strong comes back this weekend. But yeah, like I say, it's one of those things they really had. They've kind of been snake bit this title. They had one of the two was the year before last. Moxley had to vacate the belt because of it was a typhoon, I seem to recall. They just couldn't get to the country, so they stripped the title and then obviously put it back on him. But yeah, it'll be good. Even if it is empty ring, it'll be nice to see that briefcase finally cashed into something, and finally see what they want to do with that title, whether it's on the pre-taped Strong or whatever comes back into Japan for what it shows they can run.
Yeah, you said it. I think that the title is going to be interesting because we will talk about it when we talk about the top two main titles and our new Devil Champion. But it's going to be. I'm very curious to see kind of where they go with that title. And but I agree with you. I think it's something that's probably already happened. Kenta, that they probably already taped a match at some point, and have a feeling that he will probably be your champion sooner rather than later, depending on as we'll talk about in a bit as well. Not knowing exactly what things could look like like for New Japan over the next month or so. But that led us to Great-O-Khan versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. We talked about this needing to be a big match for Great-O-Khan because it was certainly for him to be on this spotlight, and they talked about it on commentary during the match. I mean, you know you're kind of in a spot where you're in a prove yourself spot when you're having, high profile singles matches against Okada and Tanahashi, and now this led, Great-O-Khan to having this one here at the Tokyo Dome. This was one that I thought was, again, and it seems like we've said this as the same theme really for the start of this show in particular, but I thought this match was fine. I can't say there was a ton that really stood out to me about it, other than it really played up that story that we mentioned going in about, Tanahashi kind of on his last run maybe, and needing to sort of overcome the odds here to not lose to the younger rising star. And that's what happened with Tanahashi getting the win. But another fine, solid match, and I think that's probably the most I could probably say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people expect Khan to knock it out of the park on his first Tokyo Dome match, I don't know what you were expecting. I mean, to me, the gimmick is very limiting. I mean, this is from someone who's seen the character from pretty much day one. I was in Milton Keynes when he debuted in England with the Great-O-Khan character. He's tweaked a little bit, but I think there are elements to what they have now, which you come back in 2, 3, 5 years' time will be there. A lot of stuff won't. I think for Khan, he's still finding his feet. He more than held his own against Tanahashi here, but like I say, I think the big takeaway people had coming out of this was 2 big losses for Khan against Okada and Tanahashi, but peel a bit further than that. You don't have young lions coming back and their first 2 singles matches against the top 2 stars in the company. Master Wato didn't have that. Show hasn't had that. So to have a guy go away on excursion, come back and face the ace and the longest reigning champion you've had, to me, that's the real story. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fine tuning to be done to O'Connor's, in terms of character, in terms of where he is as part of the empire. Obviously, where he is now is still work in progress, isn't a finished product, but it's a big show of belief from New Japan in him. And the fact that he didn't stink the place out tells you he's going to be around for a long time to come. Like I say, losses may be high profile. We'll be forgetting about those in about 5 years, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And they would, of course, the Empire, this would sort of start a theme for them in terms of how things would go at Wrestle Kingdom, but they would also find a way to bounce back at New Year's Dash, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that led us into the 2 matches I think a lot of people were certainly sold on for night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom, and it started with Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. This one was something because this was a long match, and it wound out not being the longest match of the week there for the 2 Wrestle Kingdom nights. But this was something. This was a great back and forth match. You had the table spot, which I thought was just insane. I know I've seen a lot of people talk about the table spot and how they're able to pull that off, given the table. Just I think you look at these tables and they're so narrow, and I don't know how they pull that off. But I think you saw that tenacity, that aggressiveness, that new sort of edge from Ospreay here, and then you just saw a lot of different counters. I mean, you saw Okada, going back to the money clip, but ultimately it kind of paid off everything we've talked about, going back to the G1 and just the entire year of Okada building back up, and it was the Rainmaker, the one thing that ultimately he goes back to and it gets him the win in this match. Certainly one of the best matches of either of these 2 cards. Very impressed by these 2, and as we said going in, the expectations were very high, and I thought they delivered certainly a very good match.
I think for me, I think we said it was 10 a bit thousand crowd for this, large for 2 nights.
Yeah.
If they had full dome able to make noise, this would have pushed over. I went 4.5. And crazily, I think they still have a lot left in the tank on this. We've done the same match twice in 3 months, I want to say. I'm not saying we're going to spam this like we did, Saban Tanahashi a few years back, but they are going to go back to this. And I think the fact that Ospreay lost, they're saving that Tokyo Dome moment for him, whether it's Okada next year or someone else down the line. This kind of paid off the long story we've had for all of 2020. Okada stopped using the Rainmaker for whatever reason. And as he went through the G1, he teased it, but he won by stoppage. He won by other means. Never won by submission with that money clip. Goes back to Old Faithful, gets a big win. To me, the fact that Ospreay didn't win surprised me. Especially considering that O'Khan lost in the previous match. But yeah, I mean, this one, 35 minutes, 41 seconds. I think the big stories out that was obviously the Rainmaker finally being hit, Ospreay coming close, but let's say the fact he won back in October in G1 and couldn't get done here maybe tells you that whatever's going on with the Empire is still a work in progress.
Yep. And as we said, I mean, I think everyone listening, or most people listening to this, have probably seen these shows. But on the same front, if you haven't and you're looking for the matches to go back and watch, this would certainly be among that group. As Ian said, he gave it 4.5 stars. I thought this was just fantastic. And it's one that, as you mentioned, we're probably going to get again at some point. I would also put this next match, the main event, in that same category of matches to go out and watch, and that was, of course, Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental titles. Ian, I thought you put it best in your written review. Basically, the nerves heading into this, and just go ahead and turn off the feed if you were nervous about what could happen in this one. I would be in that group, not knowing, we talked about, weren't exactly sure what level these two would take it to. But I thought they wound up working a match for their standards, a pretty, safe, standard type match that you would expect from New Japan. This was mostly, I thought, really good storytelling from these two. You had Naito working on the neck of Ibushi. You have Ibushi countering, and you've got Naito selling his knee. So both of these guys sort of selling two of the things that have certainly been, potential weaknesses for them in the past. Lots of different moves here on display. And I thought, again, the chemistry between these two was never going to be a doubt. I can't say, I really, as much as we talked about it last week, I really thought, I was like, Ibushi has to win this match. Ultimately, he does. Hits the Kamigoye for the third time. It's just, I thought the finish sequence was fantastic here. And again, this was Ibushi's shining moment, as we thought it should be. And really, that played into it even more. And you mentioned a minute ago, the crowd. If you have a full crowd under normal circumstances for this match, I think that takes it to another level, just because, the reaction was good for Ibushi winning, but I can only imagine under normal circumstances the reaction of that crowd for Ibushi finally getting his big moment.
And I think, hindsight being perfect, we should have seen coming, Ibushi was going to win on night one. If he lost on night one 2 years in a row, there would have been big questions about where his future was going to lie. I think with this one, I think I called this match relatively safe as houses. There was that run off the apron, which, in another timeline, Naito could have really screwed up his knee, just the way he landed legs in the guardrails. I've seen people, actually break the legs doing less than that. So, I think, this, Ibushi's latest chance, he finally cashed in match finishing sequence. I think this one went 31 minutes. It wasn't the longest match Bush had that weekend. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much by the end the guys were trading bombs. You had these Valencia snowplow that Naito has, Destino, but Bush blocks it into Kamigoye's in the win. By the end, they were like say swinging for fences, hitting the big stuff. And Bush gets his moment. He celebrates with double gold. Some fireworks, ticker tape, and to me, when I had that, I thought, oh no, he has the celebration, not the big, ticker tape, what have you. The fact that he's got the big moment made me think, night two, he's in trouble, which, depending on your train of thought, maybe you shouldn't have to worry about.
And let's just go right into night two, because I think we'll compare them after we talk about night two, because I think, for me, there was one that stood out above the other, and I think just looking at your grades, I think you probably felt the same. But let's talk about night two, and we will quickly, I don't even know that there's a whole lot to mention about this, as we said on night one, but it was Bushi versus Chase Owens versus Balak Fale versus Toriano for the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 title, and I think, Ian, this ended in the only way we thought it could, and that's Yano winning, and there's just not a whole lot to say other than that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some, and I know the whole meme of plans change, what have you. I really do wonder what the original plan was for this KOPW title because you don't have a card, have a big press conference to announce it, and then the belt ends on Yano the whole time. No, to me, something must have changed between the announcement and it actually being put into practice. I mean, yeah, Yano's the first champion. It fits, he does all the, the whack stuff. His matches are all cheating and stipulation laden to begin with. The fact we've got now, it's in year two. You've got Yano now as a big 2020 trophy and the miniature trophy. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I mean, I could have done without Bushi playing dead after that, after a move which World Tag League barely put some people down, as in, it was a free count. I was it not down for 30 seconds, I think it was by the end. But yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. KPW, some people thought it was going to be a new top title. It isn't. It's opening match, mid card at best fair. But yeah, like I said, I really want to know what the original plans for this would have been because I don't believe you go through all this, fanfare, press conferences and what have you, just to have Toriano carrying on more props and giving him a long entrance.
Yeah, and that's what we said. I mean, then you had guys like Suzuki and Ishii doing nothing after being in that Rambo for very little time on night one. And it's just to think, if you have those guys on this card, maybe it looks a little bit different. But I guess have Yano in there, and you even had Chase Owens and Fale trying to do the recreate the finger poke of doom from WCW fame. That did not work out for them nearly on the anniversary of it happening. But Yano, another King of Pro Wrestling title for him, and we'll see what happens with that moving forward. That took us to the IWGP Junior Tag Team title match, Taguchi and Wato versus El Desperado and Kanemaru. This was another one, I thought, as we said, kind of in the preview, not a whole lot of sort of build, not a whole lot going into this match. I think most of the spotlight has been on Desperado based on some of the matches certainly he's had in recent months. So for me, him getting the win here, that's fine. Like they have the titles and that's one thing, but I didn't really this was another one of those matches for me that was just sort of just there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've made no secret of I'm not a big fan of Master Wato since he came back. He's been very hit and miss, and I honestly don't think they've done him many favours. I mean, Wato came back because we're doing the New Japan Cup shows in front of no fans. I don't know, it was just some about the whole energy of the way he returned and the way he's been presented hasn't been well. In the match here, I think it was a 619, he kind of messed up on. And I say in this match he tends to blow hot and cold, and during the Best of Super Juniors, there were points where he looked really good, and then seconds later, he would damn near kill himself on a dive. Which, at this level, you can't really have any kind of longevity at this level doing that. In fact, he's that young. That's the sort of stuff that should have been hammered out while he was on an excursion. But yeah, I mean, we said this about the heavyweight tags. There is no depth to these divisions. In the fact that you're looking at what Taguchi and Wato got for champions Kanemaru, Desperado, Phantasmo, and Ishimori. Who else have you got?
Right.
I know it wasn't much better before, when you had the Young Bucks, Roppongi 3K, and whoever else Rocky Romero teamed with. But the fact that you've got two tag divisions with next to no depth, and you can't even blame this on on the pandemic and foreign talent not being able to come in. It was like this before. So unless you have, I think Tiger Mask and Yomura pairing up or whoever, even then, those are not legitimate or believable contenders because when's the last time a young lion won a match against a senior? Never happens. So in match was fine for what it was. The Taguchi and Wato team, I don't know if that's split them different ways, and we'll touch on Dash in a moment. But yeah, the right team won in my mind, and yeah, I think the junior tag titles are just going to be, a trinket around people's waists, and we'll be back here in 12 months' time wondering why is nothing being done to build up this division.
Well, this was where I thought that for night two that things just went to another gear and never really came back down. Aside from maybe we'll talk about Evil and Sonata in a minute, but I think even that match for me was better than expected. But this next match Jeff Cobb versus Shingo Takagi for the never open weight title. Wow, we said we thought this could be the one that sort of stole the show, and turns out that's exactly what it was, because these two had the exact, and I said this to someone, they had the exact type of match you thought they should based on the story and just based on their characters and like what they've done throughout their career and what they've done in New Japan. Like, this was the exact match you expected from these two. Stiff shots, lots of different power moves, just these two guys going at each other. You know, they even had the headbutts, the slaps. They're basically, you know, on the mat going at each other like bulldogs, and just, this was insane. Just the insane strength that both of these guys showed here was just unbelievable. I thought this was easily, for me, I'm having trouble putting this either at 1 or 2. I think actually I'm going to wind up putting it at 2 because we're going to talk about a match in a minute. I think I may put higher than this, but either way you look at it, this was a classic between these two, an awesome match. Shingo gets to win, but this was exactly what Jeff Cobb needed, because this was the thing we talked about before, Ian, and the G1s and all those different things. You wanted to see him on the biggest stage here have sort of that big breakout type of moment. And I thought this was exactly it. This was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Cobb in, when he's done tours in Europe, and he's had really good matches on the, let's say, the bigger stage, maybe not quite hit those heights. This was undoubtedly the best match he's had in the New Japan ring. And as I say, for me, this is either 1A or 1B in terms of, best match across the two shows. The one bit for me, I think, really stood out, and so I'm speaking to Robert Dreisker, WXW's Avalanche, on Twitter yesterday about this. There was one spot at the end, I mean, Cobb, dominated a long period of the match, goes for 2 of the irons, and you look, he landed on his knee, and that was for one moment that stopped him from winning that belt.
Yeah.
There's a move, the run of the mill, I mean, most of the time he doesn't land on his knee, but one time he did, and that's what cost him. And it's been such a long time since I've seen that kind of spot where, guys, being so one-sided, and he just makes one key mistake, this one big move, and it just kind of derailed him from there. I mean, there's one other bit in the match pretty early on where I'm looking at the review now with the screenshot from it, where Cobb teased doing a razor's edge from the apron to the floor, which,
right.
Yeah, if that had actually happened, yeah, I'm not saying I would have pushed it over, but that is stuff Cobb doesn't normally do. I mean, even in quote-unquote big matches. So he knew he was digging deep, and to me, yeah, if he came away losing, the Empire was 0-3 for the weekend. To me, it's best outing in New Japan rings so far. I hope he can keep this up. I know Kevin Kelly was screaming for a rematch, and all I'll say is, if they do that, I want to see them top this. And if they can do that in front of a crowd, a full, loud crowd, I think they absolutely will.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we talked about Shingo before. I think he's one of the best in the world, in my opinion. I just, anytime, it feels like anyone you put him in there with, but when you have him in there with someone like this, and Jeff Cobb just looked outstanding here, just from a physical standpoint too. Like, I feel like he's probably in the best shape of his career, and he's just like out there, and these two just perfection, I thought, in terms of the chemistry they had together. Would love to see this again, and as you said, we probably will see this again at some point. So that was certainly a classic. That led us into Evil versus Sonata. You and I kind of mentioned this on last week's podcast. I said I was just not completely invested in this based on kind of the year it had been for both of these two. Did not know what to expect from this match. Didn't really know if we were going to be disappointed or if it overachieved. I thought it overachieved just based on how it played out. I will say at the beginning, I was a little worried because, we had talked about sort of Sonata's character and taking a long time for him to finally snap. And then when we started the match, with the Paradise Lock and all that, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is sort of going to be maybe your usual type of match here. But I thought you saw a little bit more of that aggressiveness from Sonata here. I don't know that we're ever going to see that point to where you just see him just as this, completely aggressive, out of control type of character, just because, that's just the way we know him as. And we'll talk about it in a minute, but that's basically, he came out as just the silent challenger. after the main event. But I thought this was better than I thought it would be. And so I think for the year maybe that those two had and just sort of some of the disappointments we had talked about, this at least exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think people took this as a blood feud. I mean, the fact that even Sonata were barely in the same ring as each other since the split, I think maybe painted a bit high. But yeah, I mean, this is a lot better than I was expecting. I was expecting this match to be absolute drizzling, you know what. I don't know if you thought this was a blood feud. Well, you had the power drive lock, Dick Togo doing that beautiful elbow drop through a table, which that's going to be on gifts till the end of time. Again, I think the start you had, come to say, the winner of this, is likely to be the, top contender. Well, that kind of telegraphs because you're either going to get, Evil against Jay White, for a title, which, let's be honest, probably was a direction at one point. But are you really going to do that at New Beginnings on a month's build, for directions big of that? Or you can have Sonata against, Sonata Jay White, same kind of thing. I really don't think that was going to work. Evil, Ibushi, you really put an Evil in the title picture. So this if you really want to overthink it, and thankfully I didn't, this kind of programmed one particular set of results for the top two, the heavyweight title stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is a lot better than expected. I went 3 3/4, which may be a bit on the high side, but this was effectively the bad guys getting their comeuppance because everything they did just didn't seem to work. Well, apart from killing the timekeeper time and time again.
Yeah, bad guys getting their comeuppance, staple of big shows, as we know in wrestling. And I thought, like we said, I thought it was just something that was executed pretty well here, and you at least had Sonata coming out with a little momentum, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But that led us to the semi-main event, and that was Hiromu Takahashi versus Taiji Ishimori for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. We went into this match, as we said in the previous one, with Hiromu's hand injury playing that up, and then going into the actual match. This was another one, as I said. Things really picked up with Jeff Cobb and Shingo, but this was another one that I thought these two working together played their roles to as near as perfection as they could have. I thought Ishimori here was just great, kind of playing up that sort of cerebral type of guy who's just attacking Hiromu's weaknesses with these vicious shots, working on the weak spots with different submission moves on the shoulder. He worked on the hand, all these different things. And I thought just that part of this match made it so much better because that's what the whole thing is, right? You're supposed to work on your opponent's weaknesses. You go at the areas that you can take advantage of, and that's exactly what Ishimori did here, I thought, for pretty much the entire match. And that really told the story to me. Of course, a tremendous back-and-forth match, but it was Hiromu getting the win, kind of what we expected, and now gets ready to sort of elevate, I think, that title even more, and we will probably tie that into the discussion with New Year's Dash and where New Japan goes from here. But this was another one, a very, very good match, and I thought this would be pretty good going in, but I will say this one, too, even exceeded my expectations because I thought both these guys just really, really worked well together.
Yeah, I thought this was a hair better than their match in Jinku in the summer. Obviously, you had Hiromu going in. We had the hand injury from Phantasmo last night. So that was obviously what Ishimori was going to work on. He did. A few bits of this to me didn't quite work. It was whatever the hell that run up down the ramp was, but turned into a suplex.
Yeah.
So I know what we're going for. And New Japan's productions are usually great, but when you've got Kevin Kelly trying to cover for, oh, well, it's not so bright a lit there, so you would have, you missed, you didn't know what was happening. I think stuff like that, probably should be fine-tuned. I mean, I'm not saying practice everything like for the show, but I think something like that maybe could have been done with not being tried. But points for trying, I guess. But yeah, I say back and forth. Ishimori kept working on the arms of the Mysticas, the Bone Lock, the Yes Lock, whatever you want to call those moves. But in the end, Hiromu, for the third time at the Wrestle Kingdom, wins the Junior Heavyweight title, and I'll say is I really don't understand what they're doing with him as kingpin in this division. I would expect he's going to have one big run and we'll touch him after Dash. But I expect the one big run he'll have will be him leaving the division. But I think we touched on last week. Blake, we're not going to have a situation where Hiromu can leave until they've got someone who can replace him. And right now, there's no one in that junior division. I would say I think the news is maybe Show. But the problem is, they've really gotten pegged as a tag guy. I mean, in fact, that since Yo went down injured, he's, I would say, barely being used, but he's not being given any kind of spotlight. So the fact that they've kept him as, you will keep you on the back burner while Yo's recovering, kind of tells me that anyone who was hoping Shows would be Roma's replacement, for one better word, you can be left sorely lacking.
Yeah, I mean they've got some decisions to make on that, like you said, because ultimately we know how much they love Hiromu and him having the title. What's next? And I think there are a lot of unknowns as to where they go with that. And like you said, I think this has to be the year of them trying to build up that next big guy for that division. And I don't know. It's at least curious to see where they go from here with that. But all right, that was that, and then we got to the what wound up being the longest main event in the history of Wrestle Kingdom, Tokyo Dome. There, with Kota Ibushi defending his newly won titles against Jay White. I know that there has been a lot of reaction to this match. Some people, I think, loved it. Some people thought that it went too long. As for the match itself, this was pretty much another one, I thought, from a story standpoint, that I don't know how much better it could have been, because this was exactly what I think that you were expecting, just in terms of where the story was heading into night two, knowing that Jay White was in a situation where he felt like he absolutely had to win these titles. Everybody in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, is Ibushi finally going to get his big moment and then lose it? Well, he didn't. He wins this match, but the core of the match, where you had Jay White just kind of working on Ibushi, knowing that he had just been through that hard-fought match the night before with Naito, that cerebral offense like they talked about with Ishimori and kind of what he did with Romu was sort of similar here with Jay White and Ibushi, two people who had already wrestled the night before. You had their opponents go attacking those weaknesses. And then, of course, we get the moment in the match, which I will always just enjoy and love based on what we've seen from it, where Ibushi just snaps. He starts destroying Jay White with the kicks and the forearms. You had Jay White asking Ibushi to cover him, and then Ibushi just continuing the onslaught from there, and that led to Jay White getting the low blow after Ibushi had shoved Red Shoes. But Ibushi gets the win. He goes with the Kamigoye to the back of Jay White's head and then hits him in the face for the win. I mentioned the Jeff Cobb and Shingo match. I probably have to go back and watch them both again, which I'm sure I will. I thought this match here was probably my match of Wrestle Kingdom, because I love this. I thought the way these two played off of each other, I know it took a little while to get going, and that's what a lot of people say, because I mean it is it's a 50-minute match. Like, it took a little while to get going, but I thought this was great, and I think the biggest part for me, and we can just transition this into Dash, but this sets up a lot of questions surrounding, I think, Jay White and what the next step is for him, because to me, how they work this match, like, this is ultimately setting up for, I think, probably a Jay White face turn, however you want to look at it down the road, and maybe him getting that next big moment. And quite frankly, could that big moment come a year from now, at Wrestle Kingdom 16, with the way that New Japan books? I could totally see that happening, but a lot of questions coming after this, but I thought this was the best match of the week for me.
I think for me, and again, it's personal preference, I kind of like the big lads wrestling kind of stuff. This would be the 1B to Cobb and Shingo's 1A kind of thing, but both from the same level for my money. To me, watch this, obviously got the stopwatch to put the times in the report. It absolutely did not feel as long as it did. The bits where people were saying, with hindsight, the match did feel cyclical, where we're doing the same stuff. But again, it was playing the same stuff with Ibushi, getting more angry, more annoyed, the zombieing up, I call it, towards the end. For me, and again, this isn't a slight on commentary. I mean, had Kevin Kelly, Chris Charlton, Rocky Romero for both nights of the Wrestle Kingdom, and they were absolutely fantastic. I've missed them for most of last year. Since Watch Three's live, they haven't been doing a lot of live stuff. I think it's about, this went 48 minutes. We've got about 42 minutes, I want to say. Chris Charlton mentioned something about, the longest match at Tokyo Dome was 42 minutes something. I'm thinking, they're going to break the record. Like, not
Yeah.
that the whole match was signed to break the record, but when we said that, I thought, yeah, this is why. If it starts to feel long there, it's because they kind of gave away. They're so close to the record. Well, we're not going to bring that up and not beat it at this point. But yeah, for me, it was an absolutely fantastic match. You had the story of Ibushi. He lost Jay White. Back in the last year, he lost a briefcase, and I won't say it was an underdog story, but the fact that he lost a briefcase, kind of had to campaign to get a title shot in the first place on January 4th. And then, when he could easily have lost yet again to Jay White, he overcomes him. And again, that finishing stretch, the Kamigoye at the back and the Kamigoye at the front, after Gato had been taken out, so there's literally no one left to save Jay. I think that was absolutely, perfect in terms of storyline. And again, for me, I didn't go full 5. If you had a full crowd, I would absolutely gone full 5. But again, that's just me. I'm kind of making a bit more of an effort to not throw the full 5 out as much. This may be one where come November, December time I rewatch, go, yeah, I got this wrong. This is full 5. But yeah, for me, absolutely perfect main event. Yes, it went long, but if you can't go long on the main event of your biggest show of the year, when can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just once again speaks to Kota Ibushi's just insane. I don't even know, stamina and just everything. You think about those two matches in particular, and unreal, just kind of what he went through. But these are guys, as we know, who go through the G1, and so this is not exactly anything new from that regard. But I thought night 2 was better than night 1. But again, we're basically saying this in a sense that you still got 2 fantastic matches on night 1 with those two, with Ospreay and Okada, and then Ibushi and Naito. And then, of course, on night 2, you got Jeff Cobb and Shingo. You got Hiromu and Ishimori. And then, of course, you got this main event with Ibushi and Jay White. So there was lots of great stuff on both nights. And we'll talk a little bit about New Year's Dash here, Ian, because rather than go through each of these, as we know, every year they announce the card, right at bell time, and that's what you had here, and the usual lots of multi-man matches that sort of set up these feuds we're going to see moving forward. For you, what did you think was maybe some of the biggest things you took away from this? I think a lot of people were waiting to see what would happen with Jay White based on that promo, which I know we didn't discuss, but we can discuss it now. Jay White cuts the promo after Wrestle Kingdom, after losing that main event against Ibushi, and basically says that he's done, and that led to plenty of speculation. I think this is probably one of those things where you see Jay White disappear from New Japan for a bit, and then maybe come back. I don't know. Does he come back with sort of a new layer of his character? Does he come back, completely revamped? I'm not sure, but it does at least set up a lot of intrigue, a fantastic promo from Jay White, but you didn't really get a whole lot of anything built off of that at New Year's Dash, other than, he takes the pin against Ishii and sort of, I think, signifies that, hey, he loses this match too. Now he says he's stepping away. Who knows? Other than that, I guess the biggest things we got here was certainly, Ibushi and Sonata, which I know we didn't mention, but Sonata did come out after the Night 2 main event and basically issued the challenge to Ibushi. But that's kind of what we saw get played up here at New Year's Dash, is that seems to be the next challenger for Ibushi, whenever that is. You also had Shingo pretty much offering the challenge to Tanahashi, so it seems like that's going to be the next program there. And then, of course, you had Bushi and Master Wato. That seems to be the next big program as well.
I can wait. Yeah, I think, so obviously the other thing from after Wrestle Kingdom, Bushi was talking about unifying the heavyweight and intercontinental titles. I think that's a good idea, because right now the double gold it's a good title for someone to have, but it's not doing the promotion any favors. There's no obvious end point either. New Japan had booked themselves into a corner here. What do? Do you challenging someone? Do you go, oh yeah, I want to fight you, but I don't want your top belt. I'll go for number 2.
Right. Yeah.
It was a good idea to, for the first double dome last year, but it really just didn't do much. Again, like say, no intercontinental title meant there's no real big stepping stone. We'll touch on as well as Hiroshi Tanahashi looks like he challenges Shingo Takagi for the Never title now. That to me is a step down from the Intercontinental title. But if you're going the other direction, like we said with Okan, no, it seems he's above the Never title right now. He ain't getting the world title or the heavyweight title. So there's that massive chasm between Never, the mid card, and main event. So I'm guessing, at some point they either bring back the United States title and have that as a semi-main title, for a better word, or they bring the Intercontinental belt back at some point in the not too distant future when you've got full rosters back. But yeah, I mean, I think just for the sake of having to carry those damn belts around, it's good to get rid of one of them. Jay White, I think a lot of people yesterday, I was suspecting that has he signed? And I noticed today one of the very first things on commentary that Kevin Kelly made a point of saying was, this isn't contractual. He just doesn't feel like he's losing his love for wrestling. This isn't he's son of New Japan. He just lost his love. And I think the whole kind of angle they're kind of playing with Jay is, I don't want to say depression, but it's the evil bad guy who's done all these dastardly things, realised it's not worked. And I'll be honest, I think this is the start of his face turn. Someone pointed out after the show today, Ishii pinned him with Brainbuster. That was the same finish that cost Jay White in the G1 earlier this year. So that was his first plan to obviously get to the double gold. Lost the backup plan, which did work. Well, it's deja vu for Jay White here. As for New Year Dash, and I'm guilty of this, and I'd kind of thought, this is going to be like the way the Raw after WrestleMania was. It sets up a lot of stuff for the rest of the year. The last few years, it really hasn't, and I'll be honest, Blake, this felt a lot like a Road to the New Beginnings kind of show.
Yeah.
You had your multi-man tags, you had your young lions in. I think really apart from the stuff at the end of the main event, there's only one thing which really jumped out, and that was the end of the Empire's Trios match. Greater Khan laying out Tenzan with Tenzan's own tombstone. Tenzan did a full-blown stretcher job for it, which would have been absolutely great had Will Ospreay's music not been playing in the background. Like, I know you can't have silence, but the fact we had Ospreay's music playing in the background, the Empire stand tall, blah, 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 that to me was maybe one detail that took me out of it. And I think at the end they something like removed the bottom rope, which to me just, I'm weird, I know. When Mitsuharu Misawa died, one of the news reports I saw had footage of him being stretched out. It's exactly the same thing. I don't know if someone joined the dots there, but we're very quick to say he's got his feelings, but you can feel his arms and legs, but they haven't decided to take him to the hospital yet. To me, this has to be Tenzan being written off. In fact, he barely wrestled since the return. He's been in Wato's corner most of the time. We were talking earlier about Kojima, given the spot in the G1. That was several years back, and Tenzan's ankles were shot then. They can't be in much better condition now. So I do think maybe he comes back, whether it's back end of the year, has maybe one last run and then has a retirement match. But this to me, the fact that you had them definitively out someone, it's been a long while since you've had them do stretch jobs for anyone. Empire lost what? They lost 3 matches at Wrestle Kingdom. People aren't talking about that now.
Yeah, and I think, and I know a lot of people on your review were mentioning, we've come to anticipate that, like you said, was sort of the Raw after WrestleMania, but you come to anticipate that big, huge thing that happens after Wrestle Kingdom, and then that huge storyline or that huge angle. This sort of, I think, had to serve as that because, as we said, Ian, the fact is now there are a lot of unknowns about what these next shows are even going to be or when these next shows are going to be for New Japan, based on the speculation and the reports that that Japan could very well enter a state of emergency this week based on the COVID-19 situation and everything. So I think, that probably left them in a spot where they set up some of these feuds, like we said. I mean, we know we're probably getting Shingo and Tanahashi at some point. We know we're going to get Ibushi and Sonata and some of the others, but it just felt like, everything is a little bit more open-ended on a show like this than normal, just because I would have to assume that New Japan has no idea at this point maybe when their next shows are going to be, what those could look like. And so that leaves more questions than answers probably coming out of, such a hot 2 days of action. And now to kind of be back in that situation where you don't really know what's next. It's sort of, I'm sure from just a wrestling perspective, it's not ideal for New Japan, even though, as we know, a much bigger situation outside of wrestling.
Yes, I mean, we were touching earlier, coming out of today's show, Sonata Ibushi, Hiromu against Sho, Tanahashi Shingo, Phantasmo Ishimori against Kanemaru Desperado, maybe Gorillas, Suzuki and rematch. So the next New Japan shows on the books at least, they've got a Road to New Beginning week on Sunday. There's 3 nights in a row Koken Hall. Then you've got Saitama, back to Tokyo, a few more Koken Hall, then Nagano. New Beginning in Nagoya, end of the month. A few more dates in Korakuen in February. Hiroshima, February 10 11. Then more tours after that. If you're looking at streaming, I'm just looking at the calendar now for the rest of the month. We've got January 17, 18, 19, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 30th. So that's 3, 4, 5, 7 shows in the rest of the month to be streaming, plus the remainder of the village shows. If these don't go ahead, it's not the end of the world, but this is really unfortunate at least from the very much enclosed bubble of New Japan having put on 2 really good shows and not being able to build on it. I mean, there are much bigger things in this world. I mean, I know the numbers in Tokyo apparently jumped about 1,600 cases yesterday, I believe. A lot of people I know have been very critical of New Japan doing the shows. I mean, it was something like 20,000 in the Tokyo Dome across the 2 days. And look, New Japan have made a great big song and dance of saying that they've done all these shows since they returned in July. They've had tens of thousands of fans at these shows. Not a single case of transmission between between fans or wrestlers at these shows. So in that regard, I do kind of see why New Japan felt they had the confidence to run. And I'm not saying this is like the collective we had last year, where they had measures, but then had all the wrestlers getting sick because of stuff that happened outside of the shows. But yeah, I know Kevin Kelly at the end of the show didn't mention anything in terms of next dates. Just reading between the lines, it does seem like they expect a state of emergency order to be declared. And if that happens, we're going to have to wait and see whether these dates happen behind closed doors or whether we're back to where we were in February, where everything shuts down and we wait for vaccines to do their job and lockdowns, what have you, to become a thing of the past.
Absolutely. We will see kind of how things unfold here, but one thing we do know is that Wrestle Kingdom certainly, as always, a very highly anticipated event. I think it lived up to the expectations this year, despite, as we said, going in, it sort of felt like one of those where we weren't exactly sure if it felt like Wrestle Kingdom as usual, but the match is delivered. We have some interesting stories coming out of it, and now it's just a matter of seeing when those stories unfold. But Ian, as always, a great discussion, and as we always say, everyone can find your stuff over at 411mania.com. You've got reviews on all 3 of these shows that we've talked about today. Anything else you want to promote and plug here after, as I said, a very, very wrestling busy week for you there?
Yeah, I mean, we also had the some totally random. The Nightmare Factory had their first showcase. It's guys who've basically been training for 12 weeks, so set your standards, but a really fun show there. NXT UK tomorrow, Thursday. We've got the debut of Ben Carter, which intrigues and worries me. I'm working on a column which will have that in. If you're wondering why I'm a little bit concerned about that. Also got Piper Niven against Ginny on that show. And as we touched on earlier, New Japan Strong back this weekend. But yeah, like I say, in all the New Japan reviews, I've got the links to the GoFundMe for Larry's family. If you haven't chipped in, please do. It's been 6-7 months. Time races around, but long missed. And yeah, wrestling keeps going, and if New Japan stops, I'm sure there'll be wrestling going on somewhere else to keep us busy.
Yes, it will indeed. And you mentioned the GoFundMe link for Larry Zonka's family. We'll continue to have that as well in the show notes of this podcast. So you can find that in the episode notes for that. And again, check out all of Ian's work over at 411mania.com. We'll put the links to all three of these shows we discussed today in the show notes for this episode, so you can check those out while you're listening if you'd like. And for everything else, again, 411mania.com. Check out all our coverage over there of all the stuff happening around the world of professional wrestling. And thanks as always for listening to the podcast. Be sure to subscribe any podcast app you use. You can find us there, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Do all that. Find us on there. Subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes we have coming up. We'll be back again on Friday with our new weekly retro review, as we will be looking ahead to the Royal Rumble and look back at a classic Royal Rumble from history. So maybe a little bit better than the discussion we had on the New Japan Rant, but we'll see on that. So subscribe. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll talk to you next time here on the 411 on Wrestling Podcast.